The NBA season is almost back, and with training camp right around the corner, things are starting to heat up, even if we're still technically in the off-season. And while the real action hasn't started yet, we've got just enough drama, injuries, and off-season updates to keep the takes coming in hot. But let's be honest, we're all just counting down the days until we get to stop talking about what Iman Shumpert said on a podcast and finally see some basketball being played. No shade to Shump, but when we're diving into "I cooked more on the Kings than with the Cavs" debates, you know it's time to fast forward to tip-off. Now, Shumpert saying he was more impactful in Sacramento than during his championship run in Cleveland might be one of the most wild off-season takes we've heard. And hey, if he truly believes averaging 9 points, 3 rebounds, and a couple assists per game while cooking on a mid-tier Kings roster was more important than playing defense next to LeBron in the finals, well, I guess confidence is key. But anyway, back to the present day, because the East just got a shakeup that could have real implications for the Celtics. Let's talk about the Miami Heat. Tyler Herro, who was expected to be a key piece in their rotation, is now set to miss at least a month, possibly until Thanksgiving, after suffering a foot injury that required surgery. The details? Well, nothing has been officially confirmed, but word on the street is that the injury happened during a paintball outing. Yes, paintball. Whether that's true or not, Herro himself posted a post-op pic, flipping off the camera with the caption saying he's going to tear the league back down once he's off that weak-ass bed. Classic Herro energy. But what matters for us, in the Eastern Conference, is that the Heat will be without one of their top scorers for the early part of the season. And that's huge. Miami was projected to be floating somewhere between the 6th and 9th seed, that weird middle ground where you might make the playoffs outright, where you're clawing your way through the play-in. And for teams like the Celtics, who are also expected to be hovering in that range, this injury could be a tipping point. Because without Herro, Miami's roster starts to look shaky at best. They still have Bam Adebayo, who's a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate and borderline all-star, but there are still question marks around his consistency, especially on the offensive end. If Bam is your clear number one option night in and night out, are you confident that's enough to carry the team through the early season? And with Jimmy Butler out of the picture, that alpha dog presence Miami's relied on is missing. They do still have Andrew Wiggins, although his name keeps popping up in trade rumors, most notably involving the Lakers. But let's be real. You can't trust any rumor coming out of Los Angeles. If you've ever picked up a basketball in your life, someone on Lakers Twitter probably wants you in purple and gold. So for now, Wiggins is in Miami, but who knows how long that lasts. They also brought in Norman Powell from the Clippers over the summer, which adds some scoring punch, but after that, it's a lot of wait and see. Devon Mitchell showed flashes last season and will likely step into the starting point guard spot with Herro sidelined. Kel-El wears talented but raw, and the Miami coaching staff was reportedly frustrated with his inconsistency last season. Nikola Jovic, not to be confused with the other Serbian MVP, dealt with injuries last year and remains a question mark. Jamie Jaquez Jr., talented but again unproven. This team suddenly looks more like a project than a contender. And for Boston, that's nothing but good news. The Celtics were neck and neck with Miami in most early power rankings. But with the Heat weakened, Boston could very well find themselves with a clearer path to secure a top 5 or top 6 seed. Especially if teams like Atlanta, Orlando, or Detroit don't take that leap everyone keeps waiting for. The Hawks need Porzingis to stay healthy. The Magic are still figuring out their identity, and Detroit, well, they're always a mystery. So while people want to pencil those teams in ahead of Boston based on potential, let's not forget that none of them have done anything yet. Meanwhile, the Celtics have a roster built on familiarity, a mix of established vets and developing young pieces, and a core that's been through it together. Now, switching gears a bit, we got to talk about Joel Embiid. Or should we say Skinny Embiid? That's right. The reigning MVP has reportedly slimmed down this offseason and is entering camp in the best shape of his career. Which is great, but also kind of weird, right? Not that being in shape is a bad thing, obviously. But it always raises eyebrows when a superstar hits his 30s and suddenly decides to take the body seriously for the first time. Like, bro, this has been your job for a decade. You have a personal chef, a nutritionist, and trainers on staff. You're paid to be in elite condition. Why now? Still, jokes aside, Embiid being in top form is good for the league. He's a generational talent. He knows how to play the villain, how to stir the pot, and he's entertaining as hell. But it's also fair to question how long this version of Embiid can stay on the floor. Injuries have been a recurring theme throughout his career, and while slimming down might help, it doesn't magically erase years of wear and tear. The Sixers need him healthy more than ever. Philadelphia's roster is intriguing, but also full of question marks. Tyrese Maxey has taken big strides the past couple of seasons and might even surpass Embiid as the team's most impactful player this year. That's not a knock on Joel. It's more about how high Maxey's ceiling could be. Then you factor in Paul George, who is also dealing with health issues and may miss time early. VJ Edgecombe was a high pick and looks promising, but again, young talent, still improving. Jared McCain had buzz before getting hurt. Kelly Oubre is still in the mix, and Andre Drummond is back as a veteran backup. There's definitely upside here, but also a lot of volatility. The Sixers could just as easily finish third in the East or fall all the way to ninth. So what does that mean for Boston? It means the Celtics are quietly in a solid position. They don't have the flashiest roster, but they do have something that's rare in the league: continuity. This is a team with pieces that have been together for a while, and that kind of chemistry can't be overlooked. Even with new faces like Anthony Simons and some question marks on the wing, they're at a level of familiarity in Boston that gives them a strong foundation. The rotation looks something like Simons, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White in the backcourt, Jaylen Brown anchoring the wing, and a rotating frontcourt that includes Xavier Tillman, Nemias Quetta, and Luka Garza. Not a star-studded lineup, but one that could win games through toughness, execution, and team identity. Even the Vegas win totals reflect how close everything is. Boston is sitting around 43.5, which puts them behind Cleveland, New York, Orlando, Detroit, and even Atlanta in some projections. But injuries and inconsistencies could easily change that. The Cavs are already banged up with Garland and Max Strus expected to miss time. The Knicks have a new coach, and you never know how that adjustment plays out. Orlando is exciting, but still has a lot to prove. Atlanta, as always, is a coin flip depending on how Trae Young shows up. So here we are, on the verge of a season, and the Celtics find themselves in a surprisingly strong spot. Maybe they're not being talked about as contenders just yet, but don't sleep. If they get out to a strong start, they're going to be right in that mix. And with Jaylen Brown looking motivated as ever, even pulling some late-night streaming antics online, there's a different energy around this team. JB calling up teammates on stream just to see who picks up? That's the type of petty bonding I like to see. And shout out to Peyton Pritchard for answering the call. Jaylen Brown is locked in, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the season he officially enters that top-tier superstar conversation. We're talking All-NBA second team at minimum. 27 points, 7 boards, 7 assists. That's the kind of stat line we could see from him if he stays healthy and the Celtics stay competitive. The stage is set. The East is wide open, and the Celtics are very much in the picture. Now, while Jaylen Brown seems poised to make that superstar leap, the Celtics' success this season is still going to hinge on how well the supporting cast steps up, and maybe even more importantly, how they hold things together during the inevitable grind of the regular season. Every year, there are injuries, slumps, rotations that don't click, guys who get hot, guys who disappear. Boston doesn't have the luxury of a Jokic or a Giannis to lean on when everything else falls apart. What they do have is a deep, balanced roster that can play fast, play physical, and stay competitive in a conference that's still very much up for grabs. There's something to be said for the stability this team has. Derek White continues to be one of the most underrated guards in the league. He doesn't need the spotlight. He doesn't need the ball in his hands every possession. But give him a job to do, and he delivers. Defense, off-ball movement, clutch shot making. He's the kind of player who helps win playoff games. Then there's Peyton Pritchard, who just keeps proving people wrong. Every year, someone tries to push him to the end of the bench, and every year, he fights his way into the rotation. That toughness, that I don't care who's in front of me, energy, it's exactly what Boston needs from its second unit. And yes, there are questions around Anthony Simons. He's had flashes of scoring brilliance, no doubt. But can he be a real point guard in Boston's system? Can he lead an offense, set the tempo, make the right reads in crunch time? That's what remains to be seen. Because the truth is, when Simons is rolling, he can light up a scoreboard. But when he's not, he can disappear just as quickly. The Celtics are betting that with more structure around him, he'll elevate his game. And they need that to happen if they want to be more than just a fun middle-of-the-pack team. On the wings, it's Jaylen Brown, and then a lot of uncertainty. Sam Hauser can shoot the lights out, but he's got to prove he can hold up defensively over big minutes. Josh Minott and Jordan Walsh are both long, athletic guys with upside, but neither has shown enough consistency yet to be penciled into the nightly rotation. And then you've got Chris Boucher, who brings energy and length, but can also be a bit erratic. So really, the wing depth is going to be something to watch. If one or two of these guys can lock in and give Boston solid two-way minutes, that could change the whole ceiling of the team. The front court is even more intriguing. Xavier Tillman, Neemias Queta, and Luka Garza are all fighting for minutes, and all three bring very different skill sets to the table. Tillman is probably the most reliable defender of the group. Strong, physical, smart, but offensively he's limited. Queta has a massive frame and can dominate on the glass, but he's still figuring out the speed and spacing of the NBA game. Garza might be the best scorer among them, with soft hands and a polished post game, but his defense remains a concern. It's unlikely all three of these guys will have regular roles. So training camp and the early part of the season are going to be critical in determining that frontcourt rotation. Now let's zoom back out to the Eastern Conference as a whole. As much as people want to crown teams like Cleveland and New York, both of them are already dealing with setbacks. The Cavs are coming into the season banged up. Darius Garland is going to miss time. Max Struss is expected to miss a big chunk of the year. Ty Jerome walked in free agency. That's a lot of firepower missing right out of the gate. Yes, they've got talent, but one or two more injuries and suddenly Cleveland's depth becomes a real concern. The Knicks are also in transition. A new coach can be a spark, but it can also bring growing pains. New system, new rotations, new expectations. Not every team adjusts smoothly. And for a team that still depends heavily on Jalen Brunson to be both a scorer and a facilitator, any disruption to that rhythm can throw things off quickly. If they get off to a slow start, you could see that frustration build fast in New York. And Orlando? They're fun, no doubt. Paolo Banchero is blossoming into a legit star. Franz Wagner keeps improving. But again, we're talking about a team that hasn't even won a playoff series yet. Until that happens, there's still a wait-and-see team. And then there's the question of whether Desmond Bane truly fits with the rest of their core. There's talent there, but is there chemistry? Can they figure out the front-court rotation? Wendell Carter Jr. is solid, but not elite. And without a real anchor at the 5, playoff teams will exploit that. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. The Boston Celtics locker room is reportedly on edge after an apparent clash between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, sources say, sending shockwaves through the NBA world. While the team has enjoyed a strong season so far, insiders hint that tensions behind the scenes have been simmering, and this latest incident might be the spark that fans have long speculated about. Eyewitness accounts suggest that what began as a heated discussion on the court quickly escalated into a verbal spat, with both stars exchanging pointed comments in front of teammates. The altercation was reportedly loud enough to draw attention from coaches and staff, who intervened to prevent the situation from spiraling further. While no punches were thrown, sources describe the atmosphere as explosive and say that some players left the room visibly frustrated. Analysts and former players are now speculating about what this could mean for the Celtics moving forward. With both Tatum and Brown considered cornerstones of the franchise, even a minor friction could impact team chemistry, especially with crucial playoff games looming. Some insiders suggest that the incident might be a result of growing pressure to lead the team to a championship, with both players vying for dominance and recognition on the roster. Despite the drama, there's also talk that the Celtics front office is taking the matter seriously, quietly reaching out to mediate the situation before it becomes a full-blown distraction. Team sources are tight-lipped, but speculation is rampant on social media, where fans are already debating which star holds more sway in the locker room. If the tension isn't diffused soon, some suggest it could affect not just the on-court performance, but also potential trade discussions or off-season moves. As the story develops, the Celtics faithful are left wondering, will this be a temporary flare-up or the beginning of a more significant rift between two of the NBA's most talented young stars? That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.